Good evening, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Weyburn City Council, held here, Council Chambers, at 5 p.m. Monday, December 25th, 2019. This being the last of the year and also last of the decade. How about that? So we're going to start off here with approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting and strategic planning and priorities meeting held December 9th, 2019. If you would, please. Motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Mr. Warren, any additions to the agenda?
Your Worship, we have no additions from administration tonight.
Council members? No additions. Moving forward, there are no public hearings and notices. Tonight we have no delegations, proclamations, or petitions to end the year off. Reports of standing committees. Mr. Van Betju from the Police Commission, a brief report.
Councillor Richard is going to do it tonight, Your Worship, for me.
Brief report.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks, Councillor Van Betju. The Weyburn Board of Police Commissioners met just last week on the 17th. A lot of items on the agenda, Your Worship. We started off with an update from Deputy Chief Stafford on a few things, including a rise in assaults and property crime. In November, year-to-date sexual assaults were 19 versus 12 in 2018, and assaults were at 57 versus 59 last year. We went on to review the accounts receivable report. Next up, Acting Chief Stafford provided the board with a little bit of statistical data from the Combined Traffic Services Division and some financial history as well, and that was very interesting. From there, we wrapped up the Weyburn Humane Society's annual report and their audited financial statements, which were tremendous. Then there was the Deputy Chief's verbal report, and we wrapped up the evening with a very robust discussion about the budget. And with that, Your Worship, we adjourned at about 6:20.
Thank you. Please make note that that report was received and filed. Consent agenda, Fire Department report, please, for October and November. Do you have? Or are we going to, all of these are going to just be received? These will just all be received. So noted as being received. And do we have a motion, please?
Actually, Your Worship, if we could just do them all in one, all three of the items on the consent agenda as one motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you have a motion, please?
I have the motion, Your Worship, but do we do all three of them first, please? Yeah, I think we need to do all three.
There's accounts receivable report.
Yes.
Cash activity report.
and then do the motion.
No, but we're just going to receive them, and they'll be shown on our site.
Okay, so I'll read that then. I move that the items on the consent agenda be approved.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Questions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Motions. Accounts payable, if you would, please.
Worship, I'd like to make the motion that the proposed, oh, just hold on, wrong one. No, I don't have this one. Sorry about
Richards?
Are we looking at 7A?
Yes.
Then that'll be me.
Oh,
that'll be me again. I'm sorry. It's the last one of the year, so hopefully I'm excused. Yeah, of the decade, yeah. Make that motion, Your Worship, that the purchases in the amount of $1,259,387.72 from December 6th to December 19th, 2019 be approved.
Second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Questions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Asset management plan policy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Attaches a report to you guys in regards to an asset management policy. This is a requirement through the Municipal Gas Tax Fund agreement that the province of Saskatchewan and Canada have through funding back to municipalities. So I provide a policy in place for you guys as regards to us needing this for the agreement with them. So the policy has different kind of things for you guys to look at. One is the purpose. So purpose for us is to look at the operation, maintenance, and rehabilitation of our physical assets, including land, buildings, equipment, transportation, drainage, sewer, and water infrastructure. So this policy will go through and talk about principles we want to implement as we go through our asset management review of all of our assets that we currently have for the city of Weyburn. One thing we're asking for is that it's aligned with our mission, vision, and objectives of the community. Also within the scope of this is that all the reporting will go back to our engineering department and within our finance department as we move forward with this. Also, anything within asset management will be brought back to the city manager as well. So while within my role is to develop, update all the policies and make sure that we have all our plans and programs in place. Some of the objectives we want within our asset management is to maximize the asset service delivery potential, manage related risks and minimize cost of ownership, deliver acceptable levels of service in a sustainable manner, and maintain the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So within this, it talks about a business plan, what we want to do. Touch base on this. One is service delivery to customers. Two is to have a sustainable, resilient, and reduce our risk as we move forward with our assets. We want to have integrated planning and evaluation. We want to be fiscally responsible, and we want to be innovative and continue to go improvement within our assets that we have. So within this policy, we've already started to look at some of our assets. So to date, we've actually, through a provincial requirement, have looked at 4 assets within the registry and the conditions. So 1 is our current fleet, 2 is our water, 3 is our roadways, and 4 is our drainage systems. Within the roadways, that sidewalks is included in that as well. So for us, we're just looking to have a policy put in place so we can start to implement more of our asset management. We started to do our information as we move forward, but this is a requirement for the province so that we have a policy in place moving forward. Any questions?
The policy is set to go to be written as, to be adopted as such.
As such, as presented and effective immediately.
Do you have a motion, please?
Your Worship, I have that motion. I'd like to make the motion that the proposed asset management plan policy be approved as recommended by the city manager.
Second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion. Mr. Richard.
Thanks, Your Worship. To the city manager, can you help us understand who you then file this with in the provincial government, or who's, I guess what I'm saying is, whose criteria does it need to meet the policy?
Through the province of Saskatchewan. So it's through Asset Management Saskatchewan is where the regulatory, we have to go back through. So I would provide that back to municipal relations.
Municipal, so it's in the government?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All based, and all required by our fuel tax that we were supposed to get back.
Yep, the gas tax we receive every year back from the province.
Okay. Any more, seeing no more discussions? Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Regular 2020 regular council meeting calendar. Danette, if you would, please.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just a couple of items. I thought perhaps council would be interested in setting their entire 2020 calendar year rather than canceling for the summer in June, when we usually always end up shortening up our meetings for the summer. So I've kind of just proposed, if council wishes to, and you can certainly make any kind of changes you wish to the proposed calendar I've provided. The calendar I provided would only hold 1 meeting in July and 1 meeting in August, which has kind of been our normal process for several years. Also, you will note that on November 9th is the provincial, or is the city, the local government election that is going to be held in Weyburn, and so that just happens to also be a regular council meeting. So we will have to cancel that meeting, obviously, because that will be an election day here in the city. And then I also would ask council if they were interested in canceling the October 26th meeting. That's the meeting right before, a couple of weeks before the municipal election. Some cities do cancel that meeting just because of its close proximity and time to the local government election. Not all cities do, but about half and half do. So I have proposed that we cancel it. It's maybe a bit selfish on my part too, because I am the returning officer and fairly busy with election at that time as well. Just and I think most of the administrative staff will be quite busy at that time. However, if council wishes to have that meeting, we will certainly cooperate with you.
So by canceling those 2 meetings that are back-to-back, there'll be a space of almost a month in between. Is there going to be like undue hardship or to the city or unworkability or?
If there was an item that was of great importance, we can certainly call a special meeting, and council can do that at any time. This calendar is not written in stone, and council has the authority to call a special meeting if there are items that need to be dealt with. I believe we just need to give 24 hours notice. All council members must agree, but we can certainly hold a special meeting if needed.
Further questions? Bailey?
Just consideration, in October, then, we would meet the regular first or the second Monday, but would it be any advantage to move that up to the middle of the month then and kind of space it out, or?
Council can if they wish. What would happen then is, and I don't have the calendar in front of me right here, but in October, you're going to be meeting Tuesday, the 6th, because of Thanksgiving. So then you would be meeting 6 days later if we moved it up a week. And I don't know if there would be much business within 6 days' time to consider.
Never thought of that.
I thought he was saying that drop the 6th down.
Oh, okay. So move that up to the first Monday of October?
Move it the 6th down.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's up to council. If you wish to, you certainly could.
And that way, then it'd be kind of like in the middle of, Mr. Warren?
So just for clarification, you guys are talking about moving the 13th, not the 6th. There isn't a council meeting on the 6th. It would be the 13th.
Yeah.
And you guys would be talking about moving that from the 13th to the 19th.
Right. Just to space it closer. Mr. Mickle?
I don't think we should do that. I think we should stick to the every 2 weeks as it is. If you want a meeting a week prior to the October 26th, call one then.
I just brought it up for discussion.
Don't change it.
Your Worship, I kind of agree with that. I think if we need to, we can call a meeting. Danette, what is the timeframe we need to call a meeting?
I believe you have to give 24 hours notice,
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so we certainly could, and then we would
Yeah.
notify the public or whatever. But, we would probably know more than 24 hours ahead of time if we needed to call a meeting. And of course, we would publicize that through the media and
Right.
our website.
I'm sort of with you, Your Worship. I think we just want to be conscious of that. If we don't want to hold up a building permit or something like that, or not that we would be voting on a building permit, but a home occupation or something, but we can come together pretty
And
quickly.
just for the public's knowledge, again, a lot of this confusion becomes that we have to move our election time back by 2 weeks because there's a provincial election in the end of October, and we were bumped back 2 weeks. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes in. So, seeing no more discussion, discussion, please?
I'd like to make the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to make the motion that the 2020 council meeting dates or date calendar be approved as presented.
Yes, and I'll second that, Your Worship.
Any further discussion? Seeing none? Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Next thing is the fuel tender, if you would, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So on November 28th, there was a request for 2 parts of our fuel tender. Part A was just for fuel, and Part B was for fluids. And so within Part A requirement was that they had to do weekly deliveries, provide unleaded gas and diesel fuel, as well as provide 24-hour access for car lock systems for the Weyburn Police Service usage. For Part B, they'll ask to have everything provided within the contract terms, and then everything would be delivered back to the Public Works building as we move forward. So for the received quotations, they received 3 for Part A and 6 for Part B. So the 3 received for Part A was from Blue Wave Energy, Prairie Sky Co-op, and RMA Fuel. And for Part B was from Nemco, Lubricants and Chemicals, Boss Lubricants, Marshaller, Petroleum, Blue Wave Energy, Prairie Sky Co-op, and RMA Fuel. So we went through all the factors, and they made some recommendations back to council, and I'll go through those recommendations with you. So Part A, they're looking at going to use Prairie Sky Co-op. A little background on that, they are actually the higher bid of the three, but the other two proponents have their discounts within that, and dividends are not included within the one from the co-op at all. And also is a recommendation from staff because of the service they currently receive from Prairie Sky Co-op, and also the access to car lock systems for the police service. So three reasons why they want to take the higher bid on that. And within the second one, they want to have Nemco Lubricants and Chemicals provide that. Instead of separating each one of the 14 items they're looking for, they just want to bulk that as one altogether for services. So those are recommendations. So recommendation for Part A is Prairie Sky Co-op of Weyburn, Saskatchewan, and Part B is Nemco Lubricants and Chemicals out of Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Do you have a motion, please?
Your worship, I'll move that the following quotations be accepted for the 2020 fuel and fluid supply tender. Part A, Prairie Sky Co-op Association Limited of Weyburn, Sask, with clear diesel at $208,503.52. Regular unleaded at $73,853.62. And key card lock at $40,106.40. Part B, fluids, Nemco Lubricants and Chemicals of Winnipeg, Manitoba, at unit prices as presented.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Mr. Van Betju?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, City Manager Warren, I believe, as we discussed, I think when you take the dividends into account, the Prairie Sky Co-op costing was brought down to very close to where the other two were, so it's a minimal difference at that.
You are correct. So the one thing we would hope for all of our tenders is that we see the exact same information. The problem with this one is that Prairie Sky Co-op cannot provide us the dividends until we know the dividends back in June. Like I said, for Blue Wave Energy and for RMA Fuel, they provide that within their tender.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Appointment Board of Revision. Go ahead.
So sorry, I have to the City Assessor has requested to use Krishmer & Associates for our Board of Revision. We've used them in the past. They are who all our assessment, what do you call it, assessment appeals go to, and they deal with SAMA with all of our assessments. The only thing that changed in their price was their travel time from $25 to $30 per hour, and it depends on how many appeals there are, but generally they don't have a lot of travel time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I'll make a motion that the City of Weyburn appoint Gord Christmer and Associates Limited, which will include Jeff Hutton, Dave Lang, Gail Wortman, Christina Christmer, Kirby Bodnard, Cameron Duncan, Brenda Lauf, Charmaine Luscombe, to serve as the City of Weyburn's Board of Revision for 2020, and further to be contracted to provide municipal board services to perform the duties of the Development Appeals Board in the City of Weyburn for 2020.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Any discussion? Yes.
Thanks, Your Worship. Laura, we're pretty satisfied with the service we've been getting to this point, and it's a small increase in price, I think, which is acceptable, so no concerns at all?
No, however.
They've been serving this function for us for a number of years?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
That being said, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Appoint Secretary to the Board of Revision. Go ahead.
Thanks, Your Worship. I would make a motion that Eileen Swenson of Gord Christmer and Associates be appointed as the Secretary for the Board of Revision for the 2020 tax year, with duties outlined in the Board of Revision Assessment Appeals Manual, and further to be appointed as the Secretary to the Development Appeals Board with the costs presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Questions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. The last one, consent for title. Mr. Warren? Or it's
No, it's
Laura?
me.
Go ahead.
So we have a property that has been in tax enforcement since 2017. Their 2016 taxes were outstanding back then. They've been contacted multiple times, and recently we have not been able to get into contact with them. But so back in February, the Provincial Mediation Board gave the city consent to make final application for title. So a 30-day notice was sent in July, and since then, they promised to make payments, which they did not, and then some were NSF. One payment has been received since, and they were supposed to continually make payments, but nothing has been received. So the next step is we can take title to their property since they have not been making any payments. So the tax assessor has requested that we be given given approval to take title of the property.
You have a motion first for discussion?
Yes, Your Worship. I'll move that the council authorize the City of Weyburn tax assessor to proceed with acquiring title as per section 26.1 of the Tax Enforcement Act for the property described as Lot 68, Block 11, Plan 99 SE 38080.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Mr. Richards?
Thanks, Your Worship. Laura, I'd just like to thank you and Ms. Hicks for your diligence and thoroughness on this file. This is very well put together, and I know this isn't easy, so I just want to say thank you for your work on the file.
Question just for the public again. This has been going on since when? 2016?
Well, it all started in 2017 with the 2016 taxes outstanding, so it's been
3 years.
Yeah.
And it was pointed out that the city has been paying the school board portion for the last 3 years. There's no break in that. When the money, if it's $2,000 worth of tax, half of that is school board, we have to pay that immediately at the end of
Correct,
this year.
yeah.
So that is there. Mr. Van Betje?
Yes, Your Worship. Yeah, I think council discussed this a little bit the last couple of months or so, and it's certainly not a process that the city wants to go through, but we really don't have any choice. You have to enforce taxes. You have to enforce the collection of your taxes to make it fair to every citizen. So like I say, it's not a process that the city does lightly, but it is necessary and legislated besides that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. I can't remember ever doing one of these in the last 8 or 9 years or so, so that's a good thing in our community that this is a rarity. So, yes, thank you for your work, and hopefully we don't have any more come up for a long time.
So at this point, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Moving forward, introduction, there's no bylaws to be introduced, no unfinished business, new business. Debt limit increase. Laura, please.
Okay. So per the Cities Act, we have to have a debt limit established if we want to borrow money. We've had the same limit for quite a few years. In 2017, we kept it the same as it was 3 years previous at $16,300,000. With the construction of the WRCC building, we're looking at financing for $15 million of the $25 million project. So just to give us a little more of a buffer, not intending on using it, we'd like to request to increase our debt limit to $20 million. When I talked to the Sask Municipal Board about it, we could have, like, if we wanted to increase it back in 2017, they don't like to just give you a limit without any plan for it. So if we would have asked to increase it before having a plan to even use the debt, they wouldn't have given it to us. So they said they want you to, like, have a plan in place if you're going to actually use it. They won't just give you like a $40 million debt to sit on. You have to have a plan to use it. So I'm just requesting to get it increased to $20 million.
Do I have a motion, please?
Thanks, Your Worship. I'd make a motion that pursuant to Section 133 of the Cities Act, City Administration be authorized to request the Saskatchewan Municipal Board to increase the debt limit of the City of Weyburn from $16,300,000 to $20 million as approved in 2017, as was approved in 2017. Sorry.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Mr. Van Betju?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll direct this question to our city manager, Warren. So our citizens are probably sitting back wondering, you know, we're going to borrow $15 million for a new WRCC, which we had discussed before. And I was wondering if you can explain to them that we do have a process or a plan in place to repay that. If you could kind of give the higher level explanation of that so our citizens feel comfort in the fact that we will be able to afford to pay it back.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Van Betju. So the way that the city has done our past recreation projects is that we do internal loans. We've done a number of projects over the last 10 years in the city, including our outdoor pool, renovations to Crescent Point Place and the sports arena, the work that we did over at the Young Fellows paddling pool, the spray park at River Park, and the funds that we provide towards the Cognition Center. So we have a number of those loans, internal loans, actually starting to end on us right now that we're starting to put towards this project. So pretty much when those end, they go right towards funding towards this project. So a good example is we had a loan, which is loan number 2, that ended last year, or actually ending at the end of this year for Crescent Point Place and Sports Arena is $164,000. That starts going towards that project. Another example is we have loan 3, which ends up ending next year, is $230,000. Once again, that goes right towards that project. So we have internal loans that we have set up that go right back towards these projects to have them happen. It's something that former City Manager Smith set up when we started doing these projects to make sure we had funding for future projects as we move forward.
In addition to that, then, instead of expending all our reserves, we'll keep our reserves so that we have a cushion, and then we'll go outside for some financing for this project.
That's correct. So we actually have some of our reserves that are actually invested right now that we cannot take out. The investments are quite well and good for us right now, so we can't go and take those out. So us doing external funds is actually a better way for us moving forward that way. But we do have a plan in place to make sure that we do not use that reserve, to make sure that we use funds that we have available to us to pay for the project.
Good. Thank you very much for that explanation.
No further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Home occupation. Amanda, if you would, please.
An application has been received from Mike Bacaluk to sell homegrown vegetables from his home at 103-1825 Coteau Avenue, which is located in R4 zone in Burnway Place subdivision. The business will operate Monday through Friday from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. The applicant anticipates minimal traffic increase with 1 or 2 vehicles per day, and off-street parking is available. This would be considered controversial as the occupation involves clients being directed to the home throughout the day. Neighborhood notices were sent out on November 27th to all neighbors within 75-meter radius of the home, and no concerns or objections were received. Overall, the home occupation is compliant with all other regulations, and there does not seem to be much reason to deny the permit with regard to the general provisions. As home occupations are permitted use in any residential dwelling, staff recommends that council approve the home occupation at 103-1825 Coteau Avenue with the following conditions as per subsection 6.3.3 of the zoning bylaw 2003-2099. No person other than the resident of the dwelling unit shall be engaged in the home occupation as an employee or volunteer. No advertisement carrying out the address of the dwelling in which a home occupation occurs may be placed in any media. The face of any home business sign on site must not exceed .092 square meters and must be placed within the inside half of the front yard setback. Home occupations are subject to periodic review to ensure compliance. Visitor parking for off-street parking for clients is visitor parking at the apartment building. City of Weyburn business license shall be obtained prior to starting the home occupation.
Motion?
Thanks for that, Amanda. I have a motion, Your Worship, that the home occupancy application of Mike Bacaluk to sell homegrown vegetables from his home at 103-1825 Coteau Avenue, Lot F and G, Block 14, Plan 77R35154, be approved with conditions provided.
Second?
I'll second that, your worship.
Discussion?
Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks, Amanda, for your work on this. Will this be a seasonal? So I guess what I'm trying to make sure that I understand is, will Mr. Backlund have to come back every year for this? Because it sounds like it's kind of a seasonal operation.
It is a seasonal operation. He will only get the home occupation once for this location, but he will get an annual business license.
Roger that. Thank you.
See no further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Any inquiries and announcements? Just the one announcement then, just saying that we'd like to, I'd like to thank all of council for their dedication to the last decade, this council and the past councils on this, and some have been in here a lot longer than others, but anyway, I still would like to thank all. We are now moving into a new decade and moving forward. Mr. Warren?
Just a couple things with the holiday hours. Just want to remind the public about our holiday hours, which is on our Facebook page, on our city website as well. So we'll be open until 1 o'clock tomorrow here at City Hall, and then close for Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Also like to remind people that there's lots of recreational activities available right now for the Christmas season. New Year's Eve, 1 to 5, there's free swimming at the pool and free skiing at Crescent Point Place. Encourage people to go outside and check out River Park Sparkles and to check out our outdoor rink. The other day, we actually had Am Hoffert, Councillor Mickle, and myself. I skied at the outdoor rink. It was fabulous. I tried not to fall. It was quite good. But I'd like to encourage people to go outside. The weather's awesome right now, and to go out there and enjoy the Christmas season.
With that being said, there's no further notice and inquiries, no notice of motions, so we'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.